It's moist, it's sweet, and there's a little bit of spice. This is my perfect carrot cake with cream cheese frosting. Let's start by mixing our dry ingredients. To a bowl, add 2 1/3 cup or 300 grams of plain or all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of baking powder, half a teaspoon, 2 grams of baking soda, half a teaspoon, 2 grams of salt, 2 teaspoons, 4 grams of cinnamon, and half a teaspoon, about 1 gram of freshly grated nutmeg. Give that a mix with a fork until all of the dry ingredients are combined. Now set that aside. You can add in clove, ginger, any warm spice will really add to the flavor of this cake. I kept it pretty basic with cinnamon and nutmeg. Into a large bowl, add 1 1/2 cups, 350 milliliters of oil. I'm using avocado oil, but any neutral oil is fine. Add in 6 large room temperature eggs. You ideally want your eggs at room temperature for this recipe, so if they've been cold in the refrigerator, place them in a bowl with some warm water to bring them up to temp. 320 grams or 1 1/2 cups of packed brown sugar. It looks like a lot because it's not packed. Half a cup, 100 milliliters of maple syrup. This really adds a little extra something to the flavor of this cake. And 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of vanilla extract. Now whisk it until everything has come together. This recipe is so easy, you can just mix it up by hand the way that I'm doing. But if you have a stand mixer and you want it to do the work for you, go on ahead. Depending on your brown sugar, your mixture might look a little bit lighter than mine, but don't worry. Golden brown sugar or dark brown sugar will work just the same, but the dark brown sugar gives it a little bit of extra flavor. Add your dry ingredients to your wet ingredients, and then continue to stir. You may find it easier to switch to a spatula or spoon at this point. You don't want to overmix, but do make sure you've scraped down the edges and gotten any little lumps of flour out. I didn't want to bore you with a 20-minute video on how to grate and chop your walnuts, carrots, and pineapple, so I've done that in advance. Add in 400 grams or 4 cups of grated carrots, and 250 grams or 1 cup of pineapple that's been drained and chopped. Then using a spoon or spatula, stir it all together. The pineapple really adds a moistness to this cake. It does cook down, so you don't really get pineapple chunks, but it really does add to the texture. Preheat your oven to 160 degrees Celsius or 325 degrees Fahrenheit. I've greased and lined 3 8-inch or 20 centimeter round pans. I've also popped a piece of parchment on the bottom because it will make the cake come out that much easier. Mine also has a removable bottom, which makes the whole process that much more simple. But if yours doesn't, that's perfectly fine. You could even do this in a springform pan. If you don't want to make a giant celebration cake like this one, you can easily have this recipe. Just cook it in an 8-inch or 20 centimeter square tin. It will need to cook for slightly longer because there's a little bit more batter in there. Then top it with a quarter of the cream cheese frosting. If you want your cakes to come out of your pan perfectly every time, you have to use my pan release. I've linked the video down in the description below. Evenly divide your batter between your 3 pans. I like to add my walnuts after the batter has been added to the pan so that I know there's an equal amount in each layer. The walnuts in this recipe are optional, but I love the little bite it gives. And if you don't want to use walnuts, you can use any other sort of softish nut, like a pecan or a pistachio would be really nice in this recipe. Then just gently sort of press them into the batter.
I find if you mix the nuts in earlier, they can sink to the bottom and you miss out on the nuts throughout the cake.
And into the oven. For a 3-layered cake in separate pans, this will cook for about 45 minutes, but do test it at the 40-minute mark with a skewer. As long as the cake tester comes out clean, it's ready. And if you're making an 8-inch square cake, it may need to cook a little longer, about an hour. While they're still hot, I like to run a knife around the edge of the pan. This just helps release them so that there's no cracking and they come out easily once they've cooled. Once the cakes have cooled completely, remove them from their tins. Peel away the parchment. And if it's completely cooled, you can ice it straight away, but I like to wrap mine up in cling film and let them chill in the fridge for at least a few hours.
I find by chilling them, the icing actually sets a little bit firmer against the cake.
Let's make the cream cheese frosting. Where I live, the cream cheese you can buy only comes in a pot, so I'm going to strain mine for about an hour, and you can see no water really comes into the bottom of the bowl, but you do get quite a bit of water on the paper towel. This just helps with the consistency of the cream cheese. If you live in a place where you can buy blocks of cream cheese, you don't have to do this. Just make sure it's at room temperature. To a bowl, add 200 grams, that's about 7/8 of a cup of softened butter. Then add in half of your powdered or icing sugar. You'll need 1,120 grams of icing sugar. That's just under 9 cups. I know it seems like a lot of sugar, but for cream cheese icing to be pipeable, you really need it. And this cake is massive. It will easily feed 12 to 18 people. I'm adding half to start because I don't want it to fly out of the bowl when mixing it. It's really important that you sift your icing sugar very well for this recipe. We don't want any lumps in our frosting.
Beat together half of the icing sugar and the butter. Then slowly add more of the icing sugar until you've used it all up. I don't like to add all of the icing sugar all at once because it will just fly straight out of the bowl.
It's not going to look like much has happened, but go ahead and add in the rest of your sugar. Trying not to spill too much of it.
Continue to mix it together very slowly, and make sure to scrape down the sides of the bowl so that all of the butter has been incorporated.
Once your butter and sugar looks like a wet, sandy mixture, add in your cream cheese. I know this method looks a little bit backwards, but trust me, if you want pipeable cream cheese frosting, this is the way to do it.
Slowly mix it together, and then once all of the icing sugar has started to dissolve and it's not going to fly out of the bowl, whip your icing on high, just for a few minutes to get rid of any lumps and bumps. You can see how lovely and thick it is. It's going to be perfect for piping.
So you now should have a nice, thick cream cheese frosting.
I like to anchor my cake by putting a little bit of the icing on the bottom of the plate that I'm using to serve it. This just helps to make sure my cake doesn't slide all over the place when I'm frosting it. And a good little trick to keep your plate clean while you're icing the cake is to pop 4 pieces of parchment around the edge and underneath your cake. This will slide out when you're finished your frosting and you'll have a beautifully clean platter. Place a large dollop of your frosting on top of your first layer and spread it out. It's okay if some of it comes over the edge. That'll just help with icing the outside of the cake later. Add your next layer of cake, being sure to try and get it as even as possible. And add another large dollop of cream cheese frosting on top. Just like the last layer, spread it out until it overhangs the edge of the cake. Add your final layer of cake on top and put an extra large dollop on the top of your cake. We're going to start spreading this down the sides. You'll want to keep your icing fairly thick on the top of your cake, but spread a thinner layer on the outside. This is known as a crumb coat, and it will collect all of those little crummy bits so that when you put a final coat of icing on the outside, you won't see them. Once you've finished with your crumb coat, you could refrigerate your cake before adding the next layer, but I've just gone straight in and added it on top. Even it out to the best of your ability. Remember, this is a homemade cake. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, I think some of those swirls show a little bit of extra love. Now that my cake is completely frosted, I'm pulling out the bits of parchment. I've placed my cake platter on top of a baking tray so that when I press the walnuts in the side, they don't go all over my counter. You could just go ahead and pipe a border on the bottom edge of your cake and leave the walnuts off completely.
Because I've used walnuts in my cake, I'm using walnuts to decorate as well. I've chopped them finely and I'm just pressing them up halfway on the side of the cake. Give them a little press into the icing to make sure they don't fall out. But decorate yours however you'd like. My favorite is when each piece has a little carrot piped on the top.
For a little extra decoration, I'm adding a ring of walnuts on the top of my cake, leaving just enough space to pipe my florets on the edge. And then with a large star tip, I'm adding those florets. I always look at my cake like a clock, starting at 12 o'clock and then going to 6 o'clock and then 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, and then I fill in the gaps from there. This cake looks so decadent. It is perfect for a celebration or any random Thursday afternoon. And the 3 layers means you get extra cream cheese frosting, and who doesn't love that? The pineapples have made the cake super moist and so delicious. And the walnuts add a little extra crunch. It's so good, I can't resist a bite, or 5.
If you're looking for something maybe a little bit more chocolatey, you have to try my amazing chocolate cake recipe. It's the best I've ever had. And if you found this video helpful, please hit the like button down below and leave me a comment. What's your favorite kind of cake? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.